Welcome back to the Comic Dudes. For us, it's been a long time since we've recorded an episode. For everybody else, it's only been like 2 weeks since they've heard from us. However, we pulled an episode out of the vault the last time y'all got a new episode from us. Matt and I haven't actually recorded an episode in like a month. So
It's foreign,
I'm happy
man.
to be back.
Me too. It's a weird feeling.
So, as you've all probably seen, this is July's Invincible episode. This is part 7 of our year-long celebration of the 20th anniversary of Invincible. Every month, we read 2 trade paperbacks. Well, I read two trade paperbacks. Matt reads one Ultimate Collection, and then we get together and we talk about it. If you forgot about how this thing works, I will recap what we read, and then Matt and I will talk through the good, the bad, and the controversial, our hot takes and maybe not so hot takes. But before I get to that, there's news to discuss, Matthew. There's news to discuss.
This is a curveball. Yes.
At San Diego Comic-Con, there are 2 big things announced
Mm.
related to Invincible. First, Season 2 releases on November 3rd of this year. We're getting new episodes, which doesn't mean much to you since you never finished Season 1, much to my chagrin. But I'm very excited about it. Maybe you can find some time to finish Season 1. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing that you can muster up.
I
I
got a
don't
new
know.
TV watching strategy. I'm going to get there by that time. Don't worry.
All right. The second bit of news, also related to the Invincible show, during San Diego Comic-Con, they announced a special Adam Eve origin episode, which released on Amazon Prime that day.
Oh, I didn't know it was
So
out.
my girlfriend and I watched that episode last night. It's phenomenal. It was very, very, very good to get back into the Invincible universe, in the form of the show at least. And highly recommended for any Invincible fans out there that maybe didn't know or didn't hear. There is a new episode. It's an Adam Eve origin. It's pretty faithful to the comics if you've read the Adam Eve origin in the comics. And if you need a refresher on who she is and where she came from, this is the episode for you. Check it out. Hopefully, it tides us over for another 3 months and week or so until we get new episodes officially.
You're forgetting about that mobile game that got announced that's going to be a stick up on your wallet. You're about to pay
That's
all your
true.
money in it.
That's true.
So we don't get Invincible games much, but it's a start. It's a start.
Yeah, Invincible Guarding the Globe, I think is what it was called, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hero collector like Marvel Strike Force, and there's like a DC one like that, and I'm sure there's others that I'm not aware of, but yeah, I sink a lot of time into Marvel Strike Force, unfortunately. So getting an Invincible game in the same vein of that, so I'll check it out. I'm sure. In fact, I'm already signed up for the beta.
I'm really excited to dig into this and see what we're talking about here today. See how you're feeling
All right,
about
well,
it.
let's get into it. This recap, I did my best to keep it brief, but I got to be honest.
There's a
There's
lot.
a lot that happened. Yeah, there's a lot that
Yeah.
happened. So this is volumes 13 and 14. Again, I'm just hitting the high notes here. It's not a fully comprehensive recap, but it's at least the broad strokes. We kick off volume 13 with Nolan telling Alan about the Scourge virus and how there are less than 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left in the universe. We also find out that Earth was meant to be a breeding camp for Viltrumites, which is why Nolan was there in the first place and procreated with a human to create Mark to see if that would work. This is post Alan and Nolan escaping from the Viltrumite prison. We talked about that in the last episode. So after that exchange, Alan takes Nolan to the Coalition of Planets headquarters on Telestria, and they start hunting down things in Nolan's books. Remember the books? We talked about these before. He left them to Mark. Alan has a copy of them. These are secrets hidden in Nolan's books that can hurt or take down a Viltrumite. And they start with a character called Space Racer. I'm not going to get into the details on that. Alan and Nolan continue to hunt down these weapons to sort of varying degrees of success. Some they get, some they don't. Nolan is staying with Alan on Telestria, um, but he also meets with the leader of the coalition of planets. His name is Thaddeus, and Nolan also learns that Thaddeus is the first Viltrumite defector, and he is also responsible, I guess, for the Scourge virus, which is a virus that ripped through the Viltrumites and killed almost all of them at one point in the past. And Thaddeus has also created a new, more powerful strain based on his DNA that is ready to use if they need it. At this point, we go back to Earth, and Mark fights a character called Dinosaurus for the first time. This is the only time we see Dinosaurus in this trade, but Dinosaurus is going to come back in a major way very, very soon. That's the only reason I bring him up. Dinosaurus is an important character to the comic. He looks goofy. He has a goofy name. Very important. After that fight, Mark has an extremely awkward dinner with Eve's family. Um, we
This is
also
on my
find out
list
that
for the weird.
Oliver has aged quite a bit. He's now sort of like late teens, maybe early 20s. And he's changed his name to Young Omni Man. We also find out, if you remember, Cecil kept Conquest. Mark thought he killed Conquest. Conquest was not dead. Cecil tries to keep him imprisoned under the earth in a bunch of concrete. Well, he wakes up and he breaks out. And we also find out that the Sequids are back and ready to attack. And Eve finds out that she's pregnant. This is the third issue
Jesus
in volume
Christ.
13. So much happened. So
Casual
much
draft.
happened. Yeah. In the next issue, a character called Universa attacks a power plant at the same time that the Sequids attack Houston. Mark and Eve take on Universa. The Guardians of the Globe are actually fighting the Sequids in Houston, but they fail, and Cecil comes to Mark for help. Uh, the attack is stopped, and it's stopped by Mark, who does so by killing the only remaining host left inside of this big force field. His name was Russ Livingston. This was the astronaut that went to Mars way back in like volume 1 or 2. Mark just chops this dude in half, and that's it. End of Sequid invasion. Um, at the end of the issue, Mark is sort of he's telling Eve about how he can feel himself losing more control and giving in to anger, and he doesn't think that things are going to be okay. And it's at this point that Cecil ports into Mark's bedroom and says that they need to have a talk. Cecil takes him to the Pentagon. He makes him have a chat with D.A. Sinclair, uh, challenges Mark on some things that he's been doing related to, sort of being judge, jury, and executioner. Really, it's kind of it's a good conversation, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more later. He also then asks Mark to help in New York City with a dispute with the Order, which is a criminal, like a worldwide criminal organization. It's that dude that can turn to rock, whose name escapes me.
I was going to say
And
Titan,
there's
but
like
it's not him. It's not Titan.
I think it, I think it is Titan.
Is it Titan?
Is
Okay.
it not? It might be. I don't remember. This is terrible. I should have looked it up. It's in my notes. I should have looked it up. Um, it's minor to the story. Mark also goes and talks to Art, the guy that makes all the superheroes' costumes. Similarly to his talk with Eve, he sort of talks to Art about how, he feels himself becoming more and more like his father and thinks that's not a good thing. Needs a change, and he ends up getting his old costume back, which I thought was great, although it's slightly altered. Um, this trade ends with Nolan and Alan coming to Earth and telling Mark they need him to help fight the Viltrumites. And then there's the last bit, and I don't know if this was in your reading of this, but I had like a recap slash date night with Mark and Eve, where he really just sort of
Yes.
tells her all the stuff about the Viltrumites that we already knew. And then he also says, "Hey, I'm done with the killing. Like, no more of this. The Russ Livingston thing was just too much. Like, he's done." That's it for volume 13. Volume 14 is titled The Viltrumite War. This is something that we've been building to for some time. I've been talking about this in these episodes that, hey, there's more Viltrumite stuff coming. There's more Viltrumite stuff coming. Now it's here. So while on Earth, waiting for Mark to get ready to leave, Alan and Nolan go to find yet another weapon to help fight the Viltrumites. It's actually a character named Tech Jacket, who has got Geldarian technology, which is good for fighting Viltrumites. Nolan also has a very awkward interaction with Debbie, and then Oliver initially was not supposed to come with them, but Nolan changes his mind and says, "Hey, why don't you come too?" And then Mark gets it on with Eve one more time to say goodbye. While they're in transit to go back to Telescria and start fighting this war, Conquest and a few other Viltrumites destroy that ship. There's a massive, massive fight um, that takes place in space and on a planet. Obviously, Mark is very upset because he figures out that Cecil has kept Conquest alive. And in a very brutal fight, Mark finally kills Conquest, but also almost dies himself. At this point, war is well underway within the galaxy with the Viltrumites and the coalition of planets, which I'd also like to point out. If you shorten the coalition of planets to just an acronym, it spells COP. I don't think that's unintentional. I think that was very much intentional by Kirkman. I just think it's clever. Um, Tech Jacket and Alan do a lot of work in the war, and they do so with one of my favorite characters in the comic, Battle Beast. And while this is happening, everyone thinks that Nolan, Mark, and Oliver are MIA, but what's really happening is Mark needs to heal. Conquest punched a hole through his body and his guts fell out. And it's taking him months to heal. And Nolan and Oliver are just sort of having like father son time and just sort of making sure that Mark is healing okay and that he's going to wake up while they're still there. We also find out there's a traitor in the midst of the coalition of planets. Uh, that will come back to play here shortly. Next issue, Telescria is invaded by the Viltrumites with the help of this traitor. It's one of Thaddeus's assistants. He takes the defenses down to allow the Viltrumites access to the Citadel, and it's also at this point that Mark wakes up on this planet, and in the midst of this big battle, the entire Grayson family shows up and saves the day. They also learn that after they repel this Viltrumite attack, that the Viltrumites are all going to go back to Viltrum to regroup and counterattack. There's a lot of fighting in the next couple of issues. The next issue is pretty much all fights. The coalition goes to Viltrum. They're ambushed in a ring. You know how Saturn has rings? Well, there's a ring around the planet Viltrum, and that ring is made up of dead Viltrumite bodies that died because of the Scourge virus. They are kept there as a form of remembrance for what happened. And Viltrumites are hiding within all of these dead bodies, waiting for the coalition of planets to show up, and that's exactly what happens. We have a lot of the leader of the Viltrumites. His name is Thrag. He gets involved in a very big way. He fights Mark. He kills Oliver. And after that happens, Nolan, Mark, and Thaddeus, with some help from Space Racer, punch a hole through the planet Viltrum, destroying the entire planet. It's after this that Thrag kills Thaddeus,
Good.
almost kills Nolan by punching a hole through his chest and stomach as well, and is about to kill Mark before deciding to spare them both. And this is very unpopular with the other Viltrumites, but he decides to spare them both. And then they just sort of leave. Nolan and Mark wake up in Telescria. At this point, Alan is now the leader of the coalition of planets because Thaddeus is dead. Um, Oliver is alive. He's in like a big, like a Bacta tank, being rebuilt. Um, and Mark thinks at this point that the Viltrumites have gone back to Earth because they haven't been seen or heard from since almost killing Mark and Nolan at the end of the previous issue. So they decide, hey, we need to get back to Earth. And throughout the course of traveling back to Earth, Mark is just absolutely imagining the worst. Images of Thrag killing his mom, killing Eve, just absolute death and destruction. But when they finally get to Earth, nothing has happened. Everything looks normal. And while Mark and Nolan are flying around, they encounter Thrag in the air. And Thrag says, hey, there's 37 of us left. We're already here. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to stay on Earth. We're not going to interfere. And we're not going to harm anyone or anything here. All we're going to do is repopulate the Viltrumite race and rebuild our ranks. And there's really nothing you can do about it. So here are your options. You either allow this to happen, or we fight you right now. And you know you can't win, and you know we'll destroy this planet. And reluctantly, Mark agrees to let the Viltrumites stay on planet Earth in secret and rebuild the Viltrumite population. We get one wrap up issue after that. Mark goes to see Eve. She's gained quite a bit of weight. Um, they cry. They're happy to see each other. Not much resolution happens with Mark and Eve. Debbie and Nolan, however, do have a bit of a reconciliation. It seems like they're working on repairing things. They've left Oliver on Telestria. He
It was
is
left
presumably awake already. But more about Oliver in the coming trades that we'll get to next month, I think. And Mark really spends a lot of time just trying to come to grips with the outcome of the Viltrumite War. Also, Eve has a secret. Um, she goes to see William. He asks if she's told Mark. She says no. Presumably, it has something to do with the pregnancy that she learned about before Mark left, but we're not going to find out today because that doesn't happen in this issue. And then the last thing that we learn that's of importance, in my opinion, Thaddeus leaves a note for Alan and tells him about the Scourge virus and says, if worse comes to worse, don't worry about our allies that are Viltrum. Uh, just use it and rid the galaxy of the Viltrumite threat once and for all. And that is how Volume 14 ends. And that is the last sort of broad stroke of storytelling in our recap.
Bravo, sir. Bravo. Another fabulous recap as always.
Thanks.
I don't even know where to start, dude. I don't know where to start. There's so much.
Pick a spot. Let's talk about the good. What did we
So
like?
I just want to say I am really happy I got a football scholarship and probably suffered some concussions because I don't remember a lot of this. So this was like reading this for the first time again. It was fantastic, dude. I don't remember like half of this stuff. I liked one of the top things I liked. I really liked, and I went through my comic book collection, my actual comic book collection, and
Okay.
YouTube or visual. This was actually the first Invincible comic book I bought of my run. Was Invincible Returns. That's what I was holding up. That was the issue where Dave was talking about the conversation between Cecil and Mark and meeting D.A. Sinclair. I know it's complete blasphemy, but that was a really good jumping on issue if you had not read Invincible or if you're one of those people where someone's like...
That was the point at the time.
Exactly. Like
that issue was meant to be a jumping on point prior to the Viltrumite War starting.
I 100% agree with Dave. Like, you should read this from the beginning. But if you're one of those people that's like, I'm not going to read the previous 60-something issues, that is one of the best jumping on issues I think I've ever read that gets you kind of caught up on what's going on. I really liked it. I really... No, I know you're going to be contentious. I know this is you're too close to this, bro. You're too close to this. I know. I knew that was going to be a contentious point all week, but I really liked the symbolic reboot to the old costume and like starting over. You know, like I like that blue and black costume.
I hate the blue and black costume.
I like it. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Nah, I hate it.
I'm going into one of my negatives. Like I don't have a lot of dislikes, but one of my dislikes was, you know me, I like.
Well, hold on. Before you do that,
okay.
Hold on. Can we stay with the good before we move to the bad?
But okay,
let's just only talk good.
All right, I like the Invincible Returns one shot. I like how it set the scene. I like the conversations that Cecil was having with Mark. I think Cecil was putting some truth bombs on Mark. Whether you want to hear it or not, Cecil's kind of right. So I really like that. Ryan Otley art, as always. There was fill-ins by Walker or Corey Walker, right? That was the original guy, the original artist.
Yeah.
He did
sure,
those.
yeah.
He did the Mark. Yeah. He did the Nolan Allen beginning. Those two issues, and they are. I thought his art was good. I thought it was better than the previous Corey Walker issues we had, but This Otley art, man,
Yeah.
it's no Otley art, but it worked. Um, this combat and this physicality in this art, I know I say it every time, but it just ramps and gets better and better with every issue we read and every one of these big epic arcs.
Yep.
I just, man, it blew me away.
No one draws superhero fights like Ryan Otley.
No,
Sorry. No one does it better. No one does it better. And I'll even go so far as to say his work at Marvel doesn't come close
no,
to when he can just take the reins off and
yeah.
go nuts with it like he does on Invincible, because there's only so much you can do when you're writing for the big two, Marvel or DC. He still does great when the Marvel stuff that I've read, but man, it doesn't touch this stuff.
Next time we need to research what that technique is, that Viltrum palm technique, because that's in every one of these arcs going through someone's chest. And like, you can't do that with Spider-Man. Doc Ock ain't doing that to
No,
Spider-Man punching someone through
no.
the chest with the upside down hand. And that happens in every one of these Otley every one of these epic battles with
Lot of
Viltrumite.
entrails.
A lot of entrails, a lot
A
of
lot of
blood. So if
entrails.
you're squeamish, these are gonna be some rough trades to get through. But we all know this is Dave's show, so I want Dave to like. What are your likes, man? What are your likes? I need to hear them. I've been waiting all week for
Number
this.
one is Dinosaurus,
And you keep saying how
and
big of a role he plays. I really
it's
don't remember what he
preemptive.
does. I
I
know. I
know,
really
I
don't.
know.
I can't wait
So
now.
I can't. I'm not going to say
No,
too
no, no.
much. I'm
I
not going
mean,
to say too much, but Dinosaurus is a catalyst for so many things to happen in this comic. It's going to be fantastic, and I didn't remember that he just sort of appears
shut up.
randomly and then doesn't show up for like a year
Yeah,
after that. A year in like publishing terms,
yeah.
even though it's probably only like 8 issues that would typically take Kirkman a year to get out 8 issues. So it's about the right timeline. You already said it, but there's Otley gore all over the place. Um, the man just is. No one does it better. No one does it better. I can't say it enough. Conquest returning, another
Ah,
high point for me because Conquest is one of my favorite characters. It's bittersweet because I hate to lose a character like that, but also he was so awful of a person. It was very satisfying to have Mark finally kill him, especially in the way that that scene played out, where Mark was just choking this dude, and he held on so tight. There's that one panel after they just sort of, they're just going all over the surface of this planet, and then you can see like this big swath that's cut through a forest where Mark just rode this guy out from the neck, even after getting
that's what that
punched
was. That
and then
path.
punched a
Okay.
hole through.
All
Yes,
right. Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
was
Okay.
they
I didn't know
created
what that
that
was.
path.
Okay, that makes sense.
That and another reason why that is such a cool thing to me is that that is another leveling up of Mark's strength. And that's happened a few times throughout the
Survived.
comic so far, but he's taken another step towards being probably as strong or stronger than his dad now at this point. And
It's a
that's
good
really,
point.
really cool. Also, the Viltrumite War in general. That's something I've been waiting for a while to get to read again. Did not disappoint. Um, I love Space Racer too. I think he's a cool character with his DNA gun that only he can shoot that can punch holes through Viltrumites or whatever. Cool character. Um, Nolan's growth and the return of Nolan, and you know he is such a divisive character in the Invincible mythos because of how brutal his betrayal of Mark and Debbie is in the beginning, and then when you see him again for the first time and meet Oliver on that planet full of bug-like aliens, Kirkman just does such a great job of letting the reader feel a wide range of emotions. He writes such human with alien characters in alien places, manages to write such relatable content, and everything that happens with Nolan in these two trades is really, you go through the emotions of forgiving someone that betrayed you personally, and by the end of it, he is such a likable character. His redemption arc is one of the most satisfying redemption arcs in all of comics. It's a fact. It's an undeniable fact. And then the last sort of really good thing I wanted to call out was Oliver almost dying, because I don't like Oliver.
You don't like him at this point yet? You still don't like him?
Not yet. Still
Not
not
yet?
there. Still not
Okay.
there. He is more likable in these two trades, but he is still not fully likable yet. I did enjoy him almost dying. He doesn't.
Um,
What did he? He doesn't do anything. Like
he kind
he's
of
just
just
kind
gets in
of
the way.
there.
Yeah, he gets in the
Yeah, he
way.
get like every time they fight the Viltrumites, this kid just gets murked.
He put up a little resistance this time. He just gets too cocky.
Did he?
Like I feel like like he like punched one of those Viltrum guys out. Trust me, I need to grow one of those Viltrumite mustaches too. I love how their whole culture has them. But
Well, I got the mustache in some of our old episodes.
yeah,
It's a look,
yeah,
man. You should
that
do it.
Viltrum stash is great. Yeah, he was holding his own, but then he gets cocky, and then it's just like, maneuver through your chest, and you're done.
It's got that Damian Wayne in him, man. I just don't
He
like
does
it.
have a little bit of Damien in him. He's got a little bit of Damien. You don't like kids.
That's it for my high points though. Those are my five like really good things out of these trades.
This podcast is a chronicle. These are like Nolan's books of secrets. Like this is a book of you, like how you hate kids. All you do is you hate Damien.
That's not how I hate
you
kids,
hate kids. You hate him. Like
I like
hate
Baby
kids in my
Oliver.
movie.
It's
I hate kids in my movie
it's-
theater.
no.
Like this podcast.
it's
is
Tween
testament.
Oliver.
These are your writings.
Tween Oliver's the problem.
What are your
no.
dislikes? Because I have like one, but yeah.
All right, so volume 13, similarly to volume 11 last month, volume 13 is still a little scattered. It doesn't feel like a complete set of 6 issues.
I'm not letting you have this, bro. You gave me my lunch last time. I didn't forget I said that, and you gave me my lunch about that. No, we need to have all that stuff. You need that. You need the low points to build to the high points. Now you're on my side.
I wasn't coming at you though. I literally said the same thing about volume 11 last month. Go back and listen to it.
I brought that up as a point, and you screamed at me, and then you said it the same thing I said later.
Definitely did not scream at you. I did not scream at you. This is revisionist history. I'm literally looking at my notes from last month on the controversial, and I literally wrote down, volume 11 was a lot of setup and one-offs. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's good to be back, Dave.
No, it's not. I'm regretting it already. Another another sort of, I don't want to say it's bad, but it's definitely like a low point. The sequids again. I just don't like the sequids, man. I just don't think that it's very cool. Once was enough. Twice was like, okay, fine. The third time, dude, give him a rest. It's the same thing every time.
I would agree with you at this point because it was definitely obvious. It felt like filler. Like they're like the Flaxons, but not nearly as funny and bad. Like it's not cool. Like the Flaxons,
Yes.
I think are funny because they just constantly
Yes.
keep attacking and just losing. But yeah, I don't know. We
Speaking
only
of
need
the
one
Flaxons,
yeah,
I should have pointed out in my recap, but I did not.
yeah,
Before Mark left Earth
yeah.
to go fight in the Viltrumite War, there was a Flaxon attack. And at the end of that attack, Robot and Monster Girl went through the portal and are now in the universe that the Flaxons live in.
And we don't know what's going on,
also,
right? Like that's just they just jumped through the portal and we don't know yet.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
it. They didn't come back to that, but we're gonna get the resolution there probably next month, and it's a pretty. There's some domino effect that occurs because of that decision. My fault for not putting that in the recap.
Oh, we got you.
That's a pivotal thing that happened.
Yeah, yeah, that's a pretty big one. I do remember that.
Yeah. The other sort of low point, Cecil, man. I knew last month keeping Conquest alive and imprisoned was a bad idea, but doing so could have resulted in such a catastrophic universal event. Just play it out with me. What if Mark doesn't actually kill Conquest when he and those Viltrumites attack the ship on their way back to Telestria? What if Nolan, Mark, and Oliver lose that fight? Then more than likely the Viltrumites win when they attack Telestria and probably end up taking over the coalition of planets and continuing to spread through the universe unchecked. Cecil's selfish decision to keep Conquest alive could have resulted in ultimately Earth being overrun by Viltrumites in a not so fun way years later.
And
Dude sucks.
it can be assumed that obviously Conquest was the one who got back to Viltrum and was like, start the invasion or
Yeah.
something, right? Because he clearly like flew off and
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, he did. That they showed him going. He
flying off.
went and talked to Thrag. Like that
Oh
happened.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I completely
Yeah,
forgot
that
about that
happened.
scene. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. That's exactly what happened. So
Yeah.
Cecil, man, he's always toeing the line, dude. He's the character that in every trade you love him and you hate him multiple times throughout. And then my last bad thing. I had this last month as well. Oliver didn't die. It's probably the last month I can use that because he should be older next month,
And
and I
you'll
will
start
like
to
him
like him.
again.
I mean, my only two dislikes was I like my optimistic hero, and I get that this comic is a little bit different, but Mark killing, especially Russ Livingston. I mean, I know that
Mm-hmm.
his hand was kind of forced, but
Mm-hmm.
him going kind of Man of Steel and like doing the deed, I didn't like that, and it kind of put him on that Omni Man path. And I'm like, oh man, he's just it's going to be kind of anything goes, and his power, that Viltrumite temper. Like I see when we first started, like volume 3, you're like, watch out for that Viltrumite temper. Like this trade, these two trades, you really start to see that Viltrumite temper kind of come out. And then
Yep.
I like the Otley art, but I think it was issue like 77 when you were talking about Mark on the ship having visions of what's going on Earth. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think we all have a little. We all like Eve. She's a sweetheart of all of
Mm-hmm.
ours. We all got a little crush on Eve, and like seeing her just ripped apart, Debbie with her head ripped off, with
Mm-hmm.
the dude having their family photo piked in his head. Like it was like I was like, whoa, this is like a lot. Cecil with his eyes bulging out of his head. That was a little graphic for me, but we got to get there. I don't normally get squeamish, but I got a little squeamish on that issue.
I loved
But
it.
that's a
I didn't get
testament to
squeamish.
Ryan.
I loved it.
That's a testament to Ryan Otley. So
It is. It
yeah,
is.
hot takes, weird takes, random stuff.
Controversial? Yeah. So I got a few. Um, One, not telling us what happened with Eve's pregnancy. Like Mark was
Yeah, is
gone
that
for 10 months. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to assume she lost the baby. Or she had a
okay?
baby and he doesn't know yet. She either lost the baby or he has a kid.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
going to find out one way or another soon.
yeah.
But
I
those,
didn't think about that.
mathematically speaking, those are the only two outcomes that make sense.
Someone with two children, I should probably know that, but no, I didn't think of that yet.
Um, I mentioned this already, I think, but the recap at the end of volume 13, the Invincible Returns episode or issue, I just didn't love it because I wasn't a new reader. I didn't really need that.
Yeah,
Um, had to read it, just didn't love it. I don't know. Um,
makes sense.
th there was one issue in volume 13, and I think it might have been the Universa issue, and they were fighting her, but Eve kept saying crap. She'd be like, "Oh crap, oh crap,
Hmm.
oh." She said "oh crap" like 6 or 7 times in that one issue, and doesn't say it. She didn't say it for the first 60 issues of the comic. Says it like 8 times in one issue, and then doesn't say it again for the rest of the the trade or the next one. I don't know why I noticed that, and then my brain latched onto it. But it was so weird how overused that phrase was in that one issue.
Hmm.
And I'd love to know why that is, but I know I'll never know and for all I know, it wasn't even an intentional thing. It just seemed weird to me. And then my last controversial take. The first time I read the Viltrumite War, the way that the war ends just did not sit right with me,
I fucking love
and
it.
it still doesn't.
I love it,
That
dude.
is such an uncomfortable conclusion, which is part of the beauty of this comic, right? I mean, that's
Keeps
the
you reading.
Kirkman puts you in these situations. Ultimately, there's a satisfying payoff if you stick around long enough, but the end of that is still so uncomfortable to me. Where your heroes who have done everything right to try to win this fight and ultimately have probably done enough to win it, still end up holding a pretty massive L, and there's not a thing they can do about it.
So very small print. The war is over, but we didn't win. Mark Grayson. Love it, dude.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on my list of hot takes. I loved it. Like I thought it was
Sorry.
great. No, that's good. No, it's good. I love it. Um, all right. I don't know if these are hot takes. Through this
They don't
reading
have to
of
be
this,
hot takes. They could just be
yeah,
controversial
yeah.
opinions.
Through the reading of this time, Nolan's becoming one of my favorite characters, dude. And you said it. I don't really need to like go through it. He is showing his humanity as a character and the
Mm-hmm.
growth of the character, much like on a much greater level than Rex Splode. But like Rex Splode had like an arc where he came around and he, as you get older, sometimes um, you become more mature. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Nolan's whole arc of having that light bulb moment that like, no, I really did love this woman, and my son showed me things that I didn't even think were possible. Like I love that. I love that whole concept that people can change, even though most of the times it feels like people can't. People can change for the better. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
really did like that. I like a little positivity every once in a while. My second controversial take. I think Cecil's right, man. I think Cecil's
Oh
right.
no.
outside outside of barring he really shouldn't like hold on to these like super powered individuals. Like if you want to capture some homeless people and whatever and do your experiment, like whatever, but like he put Conquest. I didn't. First of all, I thought Conquest was decapitated. I didn't know he was together. So he just had his head, his whole body was
Mm-hmm.
intact, but under a slab. Yeah. So like I didn't even like I'm talking about the concussions. I didn't even remember that. So I just see Conquest fly off. I'm like, what is going on here? But that Invincible Returns issue, man, like Cecil was like hitting my man with some truth body blows. Like, bro, you're
Yep.
like your temper, like you're flying off the handle, you're killing people. Like it was. I was like, he's like you said. Kirkman is an expert of writing him, and he writes him in a certain way where, like, yeah, he's doing bad stuff, and we know he's doing bad stuff, but he's kind of right. But like you said and you illustrated, like the whole Conquest thing probably was not the best play because if those two dudes died, like it's a wrap at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Earth becomes like a birthing colony in like Gears of War, and like the Viltrumites are back and they're enslaving the entire universe, and it's over. Like
Yeah.
real talk radio. So, okay, Thaddeus is the true heel of this whole thing. Hear me out.
Really? Okay.
Did Why did we get into this war? Who initiated this war? The Viltrumites, yes, they came to Earth, but they weren't imminently on their way back. Thaddeus was the one who initiated the war. He had the conversation with Nolan, he had the conversation with Alan. He's the one who initiated this. He also could have potentially, once again, if Thrag, in this case, which I thought was interesting, cooler heads kind of prevailed. Thrag could have come to Earth and done Mark's whole vision and just murdered everyone. But as hot headed as Viltrumites can be, Thrag had the foresight and understanding to be like, we can't do this. Like, we need to repopulate. Like, it's over. Like, it's over for us if we don't repopulate. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, Thrag kind of had more of the analytical approach. I get the looming threat of the Viltrumites that Thaddeus wanted to take out. If you're going to do that, I'm a firm believer. Like, war is a horrible thing. Like, I never want to be involved in war. I think war, real talk, is just like a horrible thing. But sometimes if you're going to go to war, you're going to go to war. If you're going to go to war with the Viltrumites, wipe them all out. Use the Scourge virus and be done with it. You're causing less casualties. You might as well do it. It's horrible, but if that's how you feel and you're going to go to war with someone. That's why you don't go to war. But
I, I, it's hard to deny the things that you're saying, and I agree for the most part. I think that calling Thaddeus the bad guy
heel.
is a
I
stretch.
didn't call him a bad guy. I called him a heel.
Okay, okay. I guess he is a little bit on the heel side of things. But using the Scourge virus is also meaning death for himself and Nolan and Mark, and I think he was trying to avoid that at all costs.
So he's a
Because
self-preservationalist. Well, he doesn't care about the
yeah, well,
he
he
doesn't
thought
he doesn't care about the good of the he doesn't care about the good of the universe. It's their three lives versus the entire universe. Most
I think he thought
people
that they could take out they could take out 50 Viltrumites with the might of all of the planets combined and all of these weapons that Nolan had bestowed them with based on his knowledge throughout the years of trying to remove them from the board. You
guess
know, I'm with Thaddeus, man. I stand with Thaddeus. I think he was doing the right
that
thing.
that
Putting
is a
myself in his shoes, you know, he thought for the longest time that he was the only Viltrumite to ever defect. Then he learns about Nolan and that Nolan has a son and his son feels the same way. And all of a sudden, I think if you're Thaddeus, you've got this glimmer of hope that didn't exist before. And because you now have hope that maybe there are more Viltrumites that can be turned, you go
okay.
this route first. You try a few things before going to the nuclear option. Maybe. I don't know. We'll never know because the dude got his head ripped off. So that's a wrap on Thaddeus.
Can we add likes that we like the name Thaddeus? That's an incredible name, by the way. I've
Yeah.
known one
Yeah,
Thaddeus.
I'm a big
It's a
fan of
great like.
Thaddeus.
It's a great
Yeah.
great name. And then my other like we talked about was just like I really or whatever controversial thing was just like I'm really liking the complexity of the Viltrum Empire. Like, I get it. Like, it's they're the bad guys. They are the bad guys, but like
Hmm.
you can kind of understand. I feel like Zack Snyder stole this. Like, this is what Zod is, kind of like in those Man of Steel movies, like trying to repopulate. Like, he definitely read some Invincible. I feel like it's the same thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, dude, this was awesome. I'm probably gonna start reading at a slower pace, but like that ending, I'm just like I gotta start reading again. Like I just
Yeah.
we can't leave it like that. It's too much unresolved business. So
This is the start of a bit of a fast finish for the comic. We're now if this is our seventh part, that means we only have five left. So we're on the back half of the series now. We're more than I think we're exactly or slightly more than 50% of the way through because the Viltrumite War was 8 issues long. Um, so we're fast approaching its conclusion, and it does not slow down at all anymore. It is, if I'm remembering correctly, it's breakneck speed from here on out. So there'll be a lot to talk about. That's for sure.
I'm excited.
Me too. I'm probably going to start reading soon too, just because
Yeah.
I had to I had to do a little bit of last minute reading
Yeah,
today actually before we
exactly.
recorded to make sure I'd be ready on time. So
Yeah. You
I
did
do
great,
need to
man.
be
It
a
was a
little
great
bit better.
recap as always. You did great.
Thanks,
I didn't
thanks,
know. I
thanks.
didn't know any better. You could have been like, I read the whole thing today. Yeah, all right.
So one more reminder for everybody: new season of Invincible starts November 3rd. If you haven't watched season one yet, if you're like Matt and you haven't prioritized watching the greatest superhero show on the planet, um, now's the time to go watch season one. It's only 8 episodes, and the episodes are less than an hour. This is light work to get through season 1.
Right.
Then you've got Adam Eve's Origin, and then boom, season 2 comes back. Get on it for me. Do it for me. One more thing you can do for me is you can like the podcast, share it with a friend, give it a review, whatever. Interact with us in some way to help grow our reach. We're also on Twitter, although I don't know how much longer I'll be on Twitter.
I don't know how much longer
I'm
Twitter's
trying to
going to be
move to
around.
I'm trying to move to
For being
Threads.
honest.
So I will put our Twitter handles in the description of this video or audio episode per usual. I'm also probably going to put my Threads handle in there too, because I'm really trying to move all my stuff to Threads. It's a better experience, and there's a lot going on Twitter that I'm just not cool with anymore. So really trying to get off of Twitter. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We've got some movie review episodes coming up, as well as another Invincible episode in August. So 3 episodes in August. Remember, we're every other Monday, and then our Invincible episode drops whenever the heck it drops. It'll be a surprise, probably to us and to you. With that being said, I appreciate everyone that takes the time to listen to us and follows the podcast. And we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks. Until then, my name is Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Take care of yourselves, everybody.
Peace.